And Claude just informed me that this would be an hour, which he's incorrect. It will not be an hour. We'll get a good 20, 25 minutes together. But if it was up to Claude, it'd be 2 hours. But welcome back. It's good to see everybody. I know we're super excited to be back and be here working at the office. And what a crazy time it's been the last, I guess, 5 months. First, I want to tell our administration here how much they've supported us, how much they've meant to us, how much they've meant to the players in terms of President Moorhead, Greg McGarity, Ron Corson, and his staff has been incredible. I've never spent so much time with a staff as I have with Ron, and we've almost moved in together between the number of meetings we've had down in his office and also up in my office. So we spent a lot of time together, and I feel very blessed to have someone like Ron that the players trust, the parents trust. They got an open line of communication. It just goes to show you how important it is to have a good athletic trainer that is present during recruiting, because a lot of the relationships that are developed with our players start with Ron Corson and our staff members. So that's been a big part of our support and our process. I'm going to open it up with some updates on maybe some injuries, and I'm sure you guys got a million questions about everything going on. So I don't want to hinder your questions, but I do want to kind of update some guys on some people. I'll start with Dom. Dom Blaylock, he is not completely cleared to practice or play. He's going to have a black shirt on. He's working out. He's coming off his ACL, that occurred in the SEC championship game. So he's not completely cleared yet, but he has worked really hard. He's been able to do some straight line running and some workout stuff. The next guy I would talk about is DJ Daniels. Missed some time with an ankle injury. He's almost back, but this small summer access window we've had where we were able to have a little more time than we normally do, he wasn't able to do much during that time. So I wouldn't say he's behind, because he's a kid who played a lot of snaps last year, but he'll be back with us kind of full-time starting tomorrow. JT Daniels is not cleared yet. JT Daniels is coming off an ACL surgery as well. He's been able to take some reps. He's been able to throw the ball and do some things, but he's not completely cleared from the knee yet, and he'll still be in a brace for that. Broderick Jones had an injury, non-football injury, but he's recovered from that. He's back out taking snaps and taking reps, and has been with us working. Jamie Newman had a mid-foot sprain and was out for a little bit of our summer access period. We're calling it a mini camp, whatever, OTAs, whatever you want to reference it as. He missed probably half of that, not able to work out and do some things, but he was mentally there and able to do a lot of things with the team, and he's back now, able to do everything. So Monty's been out a little bit with a little foot injury, but he's taken a lot of reps and played a bunch. Darnell Washington had a small scope in his knee, but it was from an injury in high school that he is back out there and recovered from, and practicing, doing everything. Ryan Davis had a small torn meniscus, and he should be back soon, but he's not able to practice right now. Keely Ringo, as a lot of you are aware, he had an old injury from high school that we were trying to see if he could go with. The injury didn't occur here with his shoulder, but he's had a shoulder repair, and he's going to be out for a while. And then Arian Smith had a meniscus repair and should be back sometime during the season, but not sure exactly what date yet. So if there's somebody else I'm missing, feel free to ask. And with that, I'll kind of open it up for questions for you guys.
Okay, we're going to take the first question from Anthony Dasher. Anthony, unmute. Anthony, you got to unmute.
I'm sorry, first day issues here.
There you go.
Sorry about that, Coach. Now, just real quick, where are y'all at as far as 85 scholarship issue deal goes? And Ron mentioned the other day that no players have opted out. Is that still the case?
As far as 85 goes, I never talk about the 85. The 85 traditionally takes care of itself, and we'll have some guys with an opportunity to possibly go on scholarships or come off scholarships with things that transpire over the next couple weeks and days. So we're looking forward to that. As far as opting out, no, we have not had anybody come forward to talk about that or really present that option just yet. Our guys have been very open and transparent. We've had a lot of meetings and talks to make sure they're comfortable with the information they're receiving.
Chip Towers, you got a question? Unmute.
Yes, I was looking for my unmute button. Yeah, Coach, I'm just first. I'm curious about your sensibilities as you guys start practice tomorrow. Obviously, there's been many FBS programs and conferences that are not going forward with football this fall. What was your reaction when you heard those other major conferences make the decision to give up, and how does that affect or make you feel as you guys get ready to go forward with it?
To be honest with you, I don't get emotionally tied to the decisions of other conferences. I put faith, trust, and confidence in Greg Sankey, who has done a tremendous job. First thing that Sankey did was form a medical committee and a medical group to represent our 14 universities. And they started dealing with a lot of these issues that you guys as media are just coming to even know about. And they were dealing with them April 1st. And they've talked about a lot of these issues. They've got a plan for these issues. They've had a plan for everything that's come up, and they've done a really good job being able to adjust on the run. And there's not a call that I don't get an update from one of these meetings from Ron or a concern of a parent or something out there. They do a great job addressing these things, and they're the experts. So a lot of my faith, trust, and confidence goes into those medical groups, goes into cardiologists, goes into doctors, and we gather the information. I know that I've become a lot more educated on a lot of this stuff than I ever have been, and our job has been to relay those messages to our players so they feel comfortable with the information that we have out there.
Seth Emerson, got a question?
Kirby, with, I guess, the uncertainty of a certain start to the season for everybody, how do you deal with that? Just in general, how does it change, if at all, your approach this preseason? Do you talk about it with players? Are you upset that there's not certainty that you will start September 26th?
No, I'll start with the fact I'm definitely not upset with the uncertainty. That's the day and age we live in. Adaptability is going to be one of the most important factors of this team, and the teams that handle it best will probably be at an advantage. We always talk about our camp being about mental and physical toughness. One of the most important things about this team is going to be mentally be able to handle change and fast change, because we've seen in the last 5 months things change, especially when you're dealing with COVID. I mean, we've seen updates that were one way one day, and then the next day they were another, and they've changed. And the kids have had really a change of way of life outside of our building and inside of our building, both. So I think I'm very comfortable with the fact that it's not going to go perfect as planned. And who can handle those adjustments? Whose team cannot get lost in worrying and concerning themselves with things they can't control, and really worry on things they can, like, do I wash my hands enough? Do I wear my mask enough? Do I social distance when I have an opportunity to? Those are the things that are going to determine the outcome of our team and our guys' ability to play. It's not going to be when is the first game, because inevitably we feel like we're going to have a game. So whenever that is, we're comfortable with it.
Mike Griffith, question?
Yeah, Coach, thanks for doing this today. I guess I would just ask you about the offense. It's been such a disjointed off season, such a unique. Can you kind of paint the picture as far as where you guys are at and how the offense comes to fruition?
Yeah, much closer now to being able to have a vision and understanding. Without spring practice, that's really hard to sit here and say what it's going to look like, because you have nothing to base it on. Not only that, you don't have a lot of your freshmen that are going to make up some of that offense. And we had some guys that probably would have missed parts of spring with injuries that were able to get healthy during this time that can help us. But, the time we had of minicamp, which all we're really allowed to do is walk through, at least able to see formations, guys go out and do some position work, meaning they get to go work with their position coach and do kind of conditioning by position. Those things have been good for us. We've been able to teach and learn and do things and walk through and have go against a defense and pick things up. So I'm excited about that. We haven't put a pad on. We haven't put a helmet on. So to not do those things and find out really who we are, I think we're going to find that out in camp from an offensive perspective. But I'm excited about what the guys have been able to pick up on and do. And, talking to our offensive staff, those guys have given me good updates, and I get to see it firsthand when you go out on the field and you see some good, young, talented players that have been able to go out and pick things up. That's going to be the key to us is who is the quarterback, who's able to lead the team, and what gives us the best chance to get the ball to the playmakers out in space.
Hey, Mark Weiser, question?
Hey, Kirby, how you doing? How do you think your team has responded to what you as a staff have told them about going about things away from the facility during the pandemic? And with students returning this week, how does that impact things, you think?
Well, they've responded well so far. I mean, we have instances where we get a report of a guy not wearing his mask or not doing what he's supposed to do away from our place, and we address it. You know, we confront it. We let the leadership, we let the older players, the guys that the season might mean a little bit more to a junior or senior than maybe a true freshman, and sometimes they need to hear that from the junior or senior. And that message is much better delivered from one of those kids than just from a coach. So we've done a lot of peer intervention and tried to encourage them that way, but we're not perfect either. We've got guys that probably don't respect it as well as they should, and that's our job as coaches to get that point across. With students coming back, obviously, you know, whenever you have a large group of people coming back to campus, you're concerned about a spike. What we control is what we do outside of our building, outside of our bubble. So we've told our guys that regardless of what student population does, and by all means, I want you to understand, we're encouraging our student population to do everything the right way, space, social distance, wear a mask, but whether they do or not, that doesn't control what you do as one of our players. And you can make decisions to not go in the environments that are risky and wear a mask to protect yourself, and that's what we're driving home.
Jake Rowe?
Yeah, Kirby. Obviously, you're really familiar with Scott Cochran, but wanted to check and see kind of what your impressions of him have been as an on-field coach for you, and Todd Monken as well. Now that those guys have actually had a little bit of chance to get their hands on the guys.
Well, he hadn't had much chance. I mean, it's just tough. I mean, we've had walkthroughs. You got to remember, we haven't had an opportunity to do much more than the walkthrough tempo stuff. And, you know, you can see when guys get an individual drill and they get an opportunity to go do something, get to be around their players. Scott's energy has certainly come through. He's an energetic, very demanding coach, and has done a good job in front of the team and the units. I think he's very comfortable doing that because he was always in front of the team in his past jobs, being a strength coach. So he's done a good job with that, and the players respect him. And a lot of them know him through recruiting. And then Todd has brought a lot of energy to the offensive side of the ball. He's very demanding. He has an expectation of what it should look like. And in his job and what he loves doing is trying to do each individual job better than the next guy. And can we do one thing? Can we run a curl better than the other team can run a curl? Can we run a dig route better than the other team can run a dig route? Can we coach those things better than the other team? And if we do that, then we'll have success.
Chuck Dowdle, you got a question?
Yeah, Coach, it's great to see you looking so healthy. That's a good thing. I've got to ask two things, Coach, that you have certainly preached since you stepped foot back on this campus. One is being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and the other is finding better ways to do things. And those are two things that we've all had to kind of do through this pandemic. We've had to grow comfortable being uncomfortable, and we've had to find better ways to do things. How have you handled this, and have there been some things that's come out of this that now will stay as part of the way you do things? Have you found better ways to do things being forced to?
I don't know that we found better ways to do them because I don't think a lot of the situations we're in are better. For example, we don't go into a team meeting room environment now with 110 or 85 or 130 players. Our team meeting room doesn't allow that. So there's not finding a better way to do that. There's finding a possible way to do it because you have a choice of whether you want to do it by Zoom or do you want to go in the Coliseum or do you want to go in the indoor and have 100 seats and space everybody out. So that's just an example of you have to find other ways to do things. They're not necessarily better because I do think it's better when you've got ability to deliver a message face to face, just like I would rather be face to face with you guys. But this is the alternative method that we have to use. And you certainly get comfortable being uncomfortable because there's a lot of parts of this that I'm not comfortable with. You're not comfortable not having control over what's next, the regular schedule, a normal camp schedule. This is just so much different. But we're constantly looking and we're talking to other people. I've talked to 5 or 6 other schools in the country, as well as other NFL organizations, to say, how are y'all doing this? What is the best way to do this and get your point across during this COVID era? And it's been unique. And I don't think a lot of them will carry over because I don't think they're the best way of doing it. They're the social distancing way to do things.
Okay, let's open up now for anyone else has a question. Just remember to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question.
Hi,
Kirby,
Kirby.
David
Thanks
Pascal.
for doing this. This is Jeff Schultz. Obviously, there's been disagreement among all the medical advisory boards of the different conferences. You're aware of that. And kind of with that, there's been this narrative of athletic officials and coaches, you know, some particularly in the Southeast, not being realistic about the dangers of playing football. I mean, speaking just about yourself, is there anything that you could say to anybody who believes that you are more focused on economics and playing the games than safety first?
I don't know that first of all, that would never be the case for me because I've got an 8-year-old son that's playing tackle football and he's playing it every day and he's out there performing it. And I wouldn't want him out there if it wasn't safe. So economically, that has not come into the realm of decision, nor all the meetings I've been in or the medical group has that been imparted as part of the decision-making process. And, you opened up with a lot of the medical advisory boards not agreeing. There's not been a lot of sharing of information between those medical advisory groups. And, the one that was formed in the SEC is the only one I can speak to because Ron's been part of every meeting and been privy to it. And they've been very consistent with their messaging, very consistent with their plan. They've been right on top of everything that's come up, and they've had a really good plan, and they've had a protocol for everything that's been implemented. And I think they've done a tremendous job of that. And it's really all been about the health and safety of the players, not about the economics. I can assure you of that.
Kirby, David Pascal from Chattanooga. One of the more unique things about the days ahead, you typically have 30 days of preseason camp. Now you've got 40 with the extra off days, especially early. How will that be different, especially for some of the younger players that typically hit a wall midway through preseason camp?
Well, it'll be unique because what you're not accounting for in that is we have less days without school. So it's give and take. It is more spread out, and the medical group advised us on spreading those days out. And I think there can be a lot of benefit because when you track concussions and healthcare and the injury rate, soft tissue injuries, head injuries typically happen early in camp because it's the first time kids have gone back to having contact. So by spreading it out over more number of days, you're giving guys more time for recovery. It's not as intense repeated practices. So there's some benefit there. The loss of benefit is there's a lot of programming that goes into these camps prior to school starting when you have speakers come in that speak on a lot of different subjects that don't involve football. They involve life. That these life skills, these kids miss those speakers because we'll be transitioning to school pretty quick here this week.
Kirby, Tony Martin, Kirby. The old coach says sometimes to play football, you got to practice football. Are you content, or you feel that within the protocols that you have to work in, that you can be as aggressive as you need to be to get these guys ready to play football?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's nothing that's talking about the aggressiveness of our practices. There's nothing. They've not dialed back, the type of practices or the number of practices, and COVID's not based on the aggressiveness of your practices. It's making sure that you have a safe number of student athletes out there, that you're controlling the transmissions of COVID from each player, and you're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. We're trying to keep that outside, and we're doing a lot of testing in order to keep that away. And that's the most important thing. It's not how the practices go or the work the kids go. If anything, they're going to have more time off between days now with the thing that David just mentioned, 40 days and what ends up being somewhere around 20 to 25 practices. There's going to be ample time to get the work done we need to get done to get ready.
Kirby, the conferences that have decided to postpone their fall sports seasons are looking to spring as a potential option to play again. Just COVID aside, what are your thoughts on spring football? And do you think, again, COVID aside, do you think that is safe to play in the spring and then have another season a couple months later in the fall? Do you think that is safe?
Well, first thing is, it's not my place to determine that because I defer everything to the medical people. I would certainly think as a football coach, knowing what contact and the reason you have an off season is to not have as much contact. We have 15 days of practice in the spring, of which 2 of those is in shorts. Well, 3 of those is in shorts and a helmet. So you really have 12 days of contact in the spring. You're looking at a spring season with the potential of a fall season back to back. And I would be speculating to say that it's not completely realistic that you would have those two back to back in terms of, and plus you're going to deal with, kids that aren't going to play. They're going to get ready for the NFL and all kinds of other issues. So I'm not saying it isn't possible. I certainly think it is possible, but I don't think it's optimistic.
Kirby, Mark Schlaball, with JT's situation and Jamie Newman missing time with the foot injury, where are you at the quarterback position, and where is Dwan Mathis in terms of his recovery?
Yeah, we're excited about all 5 of those guys. I'm going to be honest with you. Those guys have done a really good job in their Zoom meetings, paying attention. And, with Jamie missing with the foot injury, we're talking about walkthroughs, guys. It's not like we're out there. I think there's a misnomer out there. We've been able to practice. We haven't been able to practice. We've been able to walk through. And, he does a really good job of standing behind the huddle, standing behind the play, imaginary taking the snap, getting the mental reps. But till you get out there and do it, it's not as easy. And he was able to do that. I want to say around the 9th or 10th one, he was able to go out there and do some things with us. But DeJuan's doing a great job. Carson Beck's doing a great job. So is Stetson's doing a really good job. All those guys are really competing, as well as JT. And I think each one has come in and they all have individual strengths. It's going to be important that we find out what each one of those individual strengths are and weaknesses, and what we can improve over the next 4 to 5 weeks to figure out who the best guy for the job is.
Kirby, with JT, did you guys recruit him at all coming out of high school? And when he was available in the portal, why was it in your estimation that it made sense to bring him into the program?
No, we didn't actively recruit him coming out. I can't say that we didn't have I didn't have active contact with him, but sometimes the position coaches are recruiting a bigger pool than I am. So he committed pretty quick to USC and didn't really go through the recruiting process as long. So we didn't have a deep relationship there of any kind. But when he became available, he went in the portal and we reached out and he returned favor and said he would be interested. And we communicated for a while, for a long time, not knowing which direction we were headed. We once COVID started, we didn't really know what was going on. So it was one of those deals that we didn't know what we were going to have in our quarterback room. We didn't know if we were going to have 2 guys remain and be here, or if somebody was going to leave. And I'm a big believer in getting the best people on the team you can get, and you have competition, and competition, iron sharpens iron. And that room's going to be really competitive, and we're excited to see where it goes.
You spoke about learning in the last 5 months that you have to prepare for changes and unexpected during COVID, and we've seen that in baseball. How big of a deal will depth be this season? Do you prepare differently? Obviously, you always are working to develop depth, but is it more important than normal this year?
I would certainly say it could rear its head faster this year than years past, based on what we're seeing in other sports and the unknown that we don't know. I mean, we really don't know. I think depth's going to be key, and we've preached that to our coaches. Every practice or walkthrough or anything we're doing coaching 4 groups of people. Now, is our 4th team as good as our 1st team? Absolutely not. But we're trying to coach like we're going to have to play a game against an SEC rival with possibly our 3rd or 4th guy. And you've got to approach it that way right now and build depth on your team and coach the young guys on your roster. Look, when you go to the NFL or you go out of college football, you really don't get developed. You either make the team or you don't. There's no development in the NFL, where we have an opportunity to develop our roster and get players better. That's what we try to do. We try to grow players and get them better all throughout. And that's what we'll continue to do. And if it shows up this season in our depth, or with maybe guys having to quarantine, then we'll hopefully be ready.
Kirby,
I'm curious. Hopefully, we'll eventually get a chance to see what it looks like for ourselves. But can you give us an idea at this point that the Todd Monken effect? I mean, do you expect your offense to be radically different than what you have run in previous years, or is this Todd Monken putting his fingerprints on what the Georgia way, so to speak?
Define the Georgia way, Chip.
Running the ball a lot, I guess, and play action maybe, things like that.
Running the ball a lot. Okay. Well, I believe in doing whatever you have to do to win. So I'm going to let you define it how you feel comfortable defining it. And then I'm going to define it the way that gives us the best chance at success. And we want to get the best football players we can on the field. We want to be able to score points. We think it takes that to win games. And that's never been any issue with me. I've never got on the offense coordinator's headphones and said, please run the ball right here. Please run the ball right here. That's never been the case. Unfortunately, I think Some people might believe that, but that's not my goal. Is to score points, and I've never said please don't score more points. Please don't score. I've never done that. So we're going to do all we can to score points. And I think the reason Monken was hired is he's a really good football coach, and we're going to use his experiences and his strengths and the players' strengths, which is much more important. And we're going to put those at the forefront and hopefully have success.
Guys, we're going to have time for one more question. I want to go to Brandon Sudge for the last one.
Kirby, so in terms of your quarterbacks, kind of following up on that, in all this uncertainty, the one thing that is certain here is that you have options in the quarterback room again. So what's kind of the philosophy, I guess, in having all of that depth with a couple of transfers coming in? You talked about Carson since the moment he signed as NLI, but how do you kind of work with those guys to kind of keep their morale up, even if they're not going to be that guy at the end, I suppose?
I think it's the same way you do all positions. I mean, look, guys, it's a competitive room, and those guys, each one of them has been in a competitive room before. Look, Jamie competed at Wake Forest. JT had to compete where he was. Carson is going to be in one of the most competitive rooms he's ever been in. Dewan was in the room last year. Stetson's been a part of that. Competition is part of the process. But for a quarterback, more than anything, you want to be coached the right way and you want to be developed. Part of development is taking reps, getting practice. Fortunately, here we have really good depth at the University of Georgia. We're able to practice in a way that I think you guys think there's only one quarterback and there's only one guy that gets to hold the ball. Those guys are going to be judged and evaluated every day on how they command the huddle. How do they respond to an interception? What do they do when they make a bust? Are they making the right check? Are they making the right decisions? Can they use their feet to extend plays? All of those things are going to be used to judge and make the best decision of who gives us the best chance to win. And that hasn't changed since any time we've had to make quarterback decisions. I'm excited to see those guys go compete, and I'm glad we've got the guys in the room that we have so we can pick the best one and let them go out there and play.